Chapter 431. What? Torben was stunned. Holding his face, he felt confused. Shouldn't they be reprimanding Dustin at this moment? Why did his uncle slap him instead? You useless fool. Get the hell out if you can't speak properly. Spring's face was stern. He was clearly angry. It was supposed to be a situation where they didn't have to spend any money, but this idiot had managed to raise the price of a pill to 300 million. Dustin would probably ask for even more if they let him continue. Why punish him instead of this damned guy? Spring, you've gone too far. Autumn frowned. Of course, he wasn't happy about his son getting slapped. You shut up too. Spring turned around and glowered. Father's life is hanging by a thread, and we urgently need medicine to save him. Yet you people are still here arguing. If something happens to father, can you afford the responsibility? Hearing that, the father and son exchanged glances and dared not say another word. The Hill family was known for its martial prowess, and their patriarch, Paul, was a master of Belerno martial arts 3 years ago. Although he had retired now, he still commanded great respect and status in the martial world. Even the current leader would show deference to him. The Hill family stood strong and was known as one of the top 3 families because of Paul's towering presence. If the patriarch were to pass away, the entire Hill family would suffer a devastating blow. Young man, I apologize sincerely. I have failed to teach my people manners. Please don't take it to heart. As long as you can save my father's life, $300 million is not a problem. Spring agreed without hesitation. I'm glad you picked the right choice. Dustin smiled faintly. The Hill family has great wealth and influence. 300 million is nothing to you. Torben narrowed his eyes as a hint of killing intent flashed across them. Yet he controlled himself. Young man, please proceed. Spring forced a smile. All right. Dustin didn't say much. He took out a gemmophone and stuffed it into Paul's mouth. Then he lifted the old man's clothes, took out a silver needle, and pierced 3 key acupoints, the posterior neck acupoint, lower chest acupoint, and stomach acupoint. Then, he flicked his finger. Buzz. The 3 silver needles rapidly spun, and waves of true energy flowed into Paul's body through the needles. What amazing acupuncture skills! Witnessing this scene, Nicholas was greatly astonished. Although he specialized in alchemy, he also had considerable medical knowledge. With his discerning eyes, he could tell that Dustin's acupuncture technique was extraordinary. Although his skills might not surpass Jeremy, Dustin was almost as good as him. To possess such exquisite acupuncture skills at such a young age, who exactly was this young man? Chapter 431. After administering the needles, Dustin helped Paul up and delivered a strong palm strike to his back. A surge of true energy erupted in Paul's body. Paul tilted his head back and spewed out a mouthful of dark blood. Then his head slumped, and once again, he lost consciousness. All right, the patient is out of danger now. However, the internal injuries have accumulated for a long time. So it will take some time for a complete recovery. After I return, I will prepare some medicine for the patient. Drinking 2 cups every day for about 10 days should lead to a full recovery. Chapter 432. Oh, by the way, don't remove the silver needles from the patient's body for another 3 hours. That's all. Now, you can pay up. After a series of instructions, Dustin directly asked for payment. He had come to treat Paul as a favor to Patrick, but he still expected to be compensated for his services. He didn't want to make the trip for nothing. The matter of payment is not an issue, but we need to confirm my father's condition first. Spring signaled to Nicholas with his eyes. Nicholas quickly approached and checked Paul's pulse. Instantly, his eyes widened. How is he? Is there something wrong with my father? Everyone felt anxious upon seeing this. No, mister. Hill's pulse is very calm, and most of the stagnant blood in his body has been removed. The broken meridians were also remarkably repaired. It's truly amazing. Nicholas exclaimed with delight. The combined effects of the Gemophon and the miraculous acupuncture technique produced such astonishing results. Damn it. You scared me. Can't you just finish your sentence? Torben grumbled angrily. If anything happened to his grandfather, he would have an excuse to execute Dustin on the spot and hold Patrick accountable. The experts from Stoneray Valley have confirmed it. Now, can you rest assured? Dustin replied calmly. It's all thanks to you, young man. We're extremely grateful. Spring expressed his gratitude. You're welcome. You pay me to treat your father anyway. Dustin replied in response. Please go to the living room and have a cup of tea to get some rest. Spring smiled. Then he turned around and said, Autumn, go and withdraw the money for this young man here. Yes. Autumn gave Dustin a deep look before turning to leave. Meanwhile, Dustin followed the servant to the living room. The Hills residence covered a vast area, enveloping a whole mountain. Tall walls surrounded the premises, and numerous villas dotted the landscape. A dozen guards patrolled around the clock. Their security was very strict. It would be nearly impossible for ordinary people to enter. 10 minutes later, Autumn and Torben entered the living room with a check in hand. Young man, this is your reward. Dustin picked up the check and frowned. Did you make a mistake? I asked for 300 million, not 3 million. Of course not. Torben answered arrogantly. Even the experts of Stoneray Valley only charged us 3 million. You're just an unknown doctor from God knows where. You should be grateful that we're willing to pay you this much. I don't care about others, but since we agreed on 300 million, it must be 300 million, not a penny less, Dustin said coldly. You little brat. Don't push your luck. Torben glared. 3 million is more than enough for someone like you to live a lavish life for years. If you have any sense, take the check, and get the hell out of here. Are you planning to go against your word? Dustin narrowed his eyes. So what if we are? Torben sneered. Open your eyes wide and see where you are. Torben thought to himself. Do you think a nobody like you can take away $300 million just like that? I never expected the prestigious Hill family to be a bunch of untrustworthy people. It's truly disappointing. Shut the hell up. Torben grabbed Dustin's collar and threatened, Kid, I'll give you two options now. Either take the 3 million and get lost, or I'll break your legs and throw you out. 3 million, it's barely enough to buy your coffin. Picking up the check, Dustin threw it directly at Torben's face. Chapter 433. The check lightly landed on Torben's face with a loud smack. It didn't hurt him, but he felt utterly humiliated. You're asking for death. Torben instantly became furious and raised his fist to strike Dustin. Yet before he could reach Dustin, he got kicked away and fell to the ground. He ended up in a pitiful state and coughed non-stop. I will kill you for sure. Torben's eyes widened in rage. He forcefully tore off his clothes, revealing his muscular body covered in body hair. Then, like a raging bull, he fiercely charged toward Dustin. Get lost. Dustin raised his hand and slapped Torben, sending him flying. Torben let out a miserable scream and crashed to the ground, struggling to get up. How dare you hit my son? Autumn's face turned dark as he witnessed the scene. Guards. Take this guy down. With his command, a group of guards dressed in sturdy clothing quickly swarmed in and surrounded Dustin. You brat. How dare you act recklessly in the Hill family? You must be tired of living. I wanted to give you 3 million, but now, you won't get a single penny. Not only that, but your legs will be broken as a deterrent. Autumn shouted. Attack. He waved his hand, and the guards raised their weapons, preparing to strike. Stop. At that moment, Patrick rushed in urgently. Uncle, what are you doing? Dustin is a benefactor of the Hill family. Aren't you afraid of grandfather's rage if you act like this? Mind your business. Get out of here, or I'll beat you too. Autumn remained obstinate. If you have any complaints, come at me, but I won't let you lay a hand on Dustin. Patrick spoke in a stern voice. You insolent brat. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your father. Autumn grew furious. Just as he was about to make a move, a servant rushed in, panic-stricken, and shouted, "Mr. Autumn. Something's wrong. Mr. Hill has gone mad." "What? Gone mad?" Autumn was shocked. Not daring to linger, he hastily led the guards and left. "You brat, just you wait." Leaving behind a harsh threat, Torben rushed out too. Paul was the pillar of the family, and they could not afford any mishap. "What happened?" Patrick frowned. "Dustin, didn't you say that my grandfather was lying?" "Your grandfather is indeed not in any life-threatening danger, but I didn't expect him to go mad like this," Dustin said, deep in thought. He had examined Paul's pulse earlier, and as long as he didn't forcefully cultivate his energy, there shouldn't have been any issues. "Dustin, can you come with me to check on my grandfather?" Patrick proposed. "Let's go. I also want to see what's going on." Without saying much, Dustin followed Patrick out of the living room. At this moment, the entire Hill residence was in chaos. Several armed guards rushed in various directions, heading towards the garden. When Dustin and Patrick arrived at the garden and saw the scene, they couldn't help but be astonished. The once grand garden was now in complete disarray. An elderly with white eyebrows and a white beard was rampaging through the garden in his pajamas. Like a bulldozer, he destroyed the trees and flowers wherever he went. The man was none other than Paul. Kill. Attack. Paul's eyes were bloodshot, his expression ferocious and mad. He would even roar like a beast. Anyone who approached was sent flying by him. They didn't even have the chance to put up a fight. Paul was once a master of Belerno martial arts. Although he was old now, he was still formidable. Especially after losing control, he couldn't recognize anyone and kept wanting to kill others. Anyone who approached him would be in trouble. "Quick! Stop Mr. Hill!" Spring shouted hoarsely. The guards approached in groups, holding shields. However, as soon as they got close, they were sent flying by Paul's strong palm. Chapter 434. Paul's rampage left the guards severely injured. They coughed up blood and screamed in agony, yet couldn't stop him. "Oh no! Grandfather has gone mad!" Torben exclaimed in shock. His gaze suddenly fell on Dustin, and he shouted, "Uncle! It's all that kid's doing. He caused grandfather to go berserk. Quickly, capture him." "That's right. I've long seen through this kid's malicious intentions. He deliberately poisoned father and caused father to end up like this. He must be punished severely." Autumn echoed. "Don't accuse Dustin without evidence. I don't believe he would do such a thing." Patrick shouted. Frowning. Spring quickly approached Dustin and asked, "Young man, what's happening? Didn't you say my father was fine? Why did he lose control?" "Somebody tampered with my needles." Dustin carefully observed and quickly noticed something wrong. "Tampered with your needles? What do you mean?" Spring was puzzling. "I inserted 3 silver needles in the posterior neck, lower chest, and stomach acupoints to stabilize internal injuries. However, the needle in the lower chest acupoint is missing." Dustin explained. He's right." Spring carefully examined and noticed the silver needle on Paul's chest was really missing. "HMPH. Stop spouting nonsense." Torben sneered. "I can see right through you. You're clearly guilty and making excuses. Spring, this guy must have caused father to become like this. Stop wasting time and just torture him until he confesses the truth." Autumn said, brimming with hostility. "Uncle Spring, Dustin is my friend, and I'm willing to guarantee with my life that he's innocent." Patrick argued firmly. "Both of you are obviously in cahoots." Torben spat. "Enough. Shut your mouths." Spring furrowed his brow and turned to Dustin. "Young man, you have exceptional medical skills. Is there anything you can do to help my father regain control?" "As long as you can restrain your father, I have a method to bring him to normal," Dustin replied calmly. "Restrain my grandfather? That's utter nonsense." Torben was displeased. Do you even know who my grandfather is? He was a master of Belerno martial arts, a towering figure in the martial arts world. Nobody can restrain my grandfather in Millsburg. That's right, young man. You just witnessed it. None of the armed guards could get close to my father. How can we restrain him? Spring also looked troubled. HMPH. I think someone is deliberately looking for trouble. Autumn's gaze turned cold. This is surely tricky. Patrick sighed. Paul was a master of Belerno martial arts. Only Jonas Hill, Spring's oldest son, could compete with his grandfather in martial arts. However, Jonas was currently far away in Shu. He couldn't come back in time. Run. Grandfather is coming this way. Torben suddenly yelled. Everyone looked up and saw Paul changing direction and charging toward them furiously. In an instant, everyone panicked and scattered in fear. Dustin. What are you waiting for? Run now. Patrick turned his head and saw Dustin still standing in place. If you can't stop him, then let me handle it. Dustin replied calmly without evading. Dustin. Are you out of your mind? Come here quickly. Patrick's face fell upon witnessing the scene. HMPH. Ignorant fool. Torben sneered repeatedly. Young people are so ignorant. Do you really think you can withstand my grandfather? Autumn also looked gleeful, wishing Dustin would die in his father's hand. Young man, don't be impulsive. You can't stop my father. Spring shouted. Unfazed by the warnings, Dustin walked straight ahead. Kill. Attack. Paul's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted madly. Seeing someone blocking his path, he threw a powerful punch. In an instant, the world seemed to be in chaos. The surrounding plants and trees collapsed one after another. The atmosphere itself seemed to distort. A tremendous boom echoed as Dustin effortlessly caught Paul's earth-shattering punch. The whole area fell into complete silence. Chapter 435. The entire garden fell eerily silent. Everyone was stunned by the scene before them. No one had expected Dustin to be able to block Paul's punch. Not only did he block it, he didn't suffer any harm. After all, Paul was once a master of the Belerno martial arts, a grandmaster. His punches and kicks carried the power to shatter mountains and split the earth. How many people in the Hill family could contend with such a terrifying existence? Did he just block the punch? Torben was so shocked that his eyes widened in disbelief. In their eyes, Paul represented the pinnacle of power in Millsburg. He could kill a divine-level martial artist with a casual move. How could a doctor who came out of nowhere block a grandmaster's punch? What was going on? Oh my God. Someone actually blocked Mr. Hill's punch. Am I seeing things? Cholas's mouth hung open, his jaw almost dropping to the ground. He had thought Dustin was only a genius in medicine, but he never expected Dustin to be so good at martial arts too. Damn it. I didn't know Dustin was so good. Patrick almost jumped up. Opening his mouth wide, he completely disregarded his image. Who exactly is this guy? Spring was shocked and suspicious. Sweat rolled down his forehead. He thought Dustin was seeking death when he approached Paul just now, but he ended up blocking Paul's attack. None of the elite guards from the Hill family could accomplish what the person did. His strength was evident. No. Impossible. Shocked. Autumn shook his head frantically, denying the truth. This kid is in his 20s. How could he block Father's punch? It must be because Father's power has greatly diminished due to his condition. That was why he had the opportunity. That's right. Grandfather is physically weak and in a state of madness. His strength has greatly declined. Otherwise, how could this kid withstand him? Torben echoed. Upon hearing that, everyone nodded in agreement. Indeed, if it wasn't for the fact that Paul was physically weak and severely too, he could definitely do better than that. In the end, Dustin got lucky and found a loophole to block the punch. Thinking of this, the crowd calmed down. Mr. Hill, sleep well. Dustin paid no attention to the expressions of the people around him. Immediately after blocking Paul's punch, he retrieved a silver needle and pierced it into the lower chest acupoint. Instantly, Paul's body went limp, and he fainted on the spot. "Young man, how is it? Is my father okay?" Spring approached with a group of people. "He's out of danger, just a bit weak. He'll be fine after a nap." Dustin shook his head. "That's good." Spring sighed in relief. "Dustin, you're truly amazing. You actually went head to head with my grandfather. I'm impressed." Patrick gave him a thumbs up. HMPH. "What's so impressive about it? If it weren't for grandfather's weakened state, he wouldn't have been able to withstand it." "It's just dumb luck," Torben said, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. "Then why didn't you step up earlier? You ran away like a rabbit," Patrick taunted. Torben was at a loss for words. Paul's power was unquestionable. Who would dare to confront him? "All right, let's help Mr. Hill back to rest." Spring gestured, and soon the guards stepped forward and carried Paul into the room. Chapter 436. "Young man, we will need your help again," Spring said. "Treating your father and saving his life is not a problem, but I hope you Hills can uphold your promise and pay me the full amount of money instead of resorting to coercion, intimidation, and taking advantage of your position," Dustin said calmly. "Coercion, intimidation, taking advantage of our position. What are you talking about, young man?" Spring was puzzling. "Perhaps you should ask the two people next to you what they have done," Dustin hinted. "Autumn, what's going on?" Spring frowned. Well, Autumn hesitated to speak. He couldn't openly bring up such embezzlement of funds. "Uncle Spring, I know what's going on. Uncle Autumn and the others took it upon themselves to change Dustin's 300 million remunerations into 3 million without permission and even went so far as to threaten him," Patrick said seriously. "Autumn, have you lost your mind?" Spring's face darkened. "Dustin saved our father's life. He is the Hill family's benefactor. How can you treat him like this? Who gave you the audacity? Do you think our father's life is only worth a mere 3 million? Spring. I just feel that this kid doesn't deserve so much money." Autumn muttered. "Nonsense." Spring glared at Autumn. "Dustin has the skills. Why doesn't he deserve the money? You've made a mistake yet show no signs of remorse. Immediately go to the shrine and kneel. Reflect on yourself. Spring. Get out." Autumn was about to say something, but Spring angrily interrupted him. Left with no choice, he could only obediently kneel at the shrine. "And you?" Spring glared at Torben. The man shrank his neck and dared not defy him. Before leaving, Torben cast a resentful look at Dustin. "Dustin, I apologize sincerely. I failed to teach them their manners. Please forgive me," Spring said, looking ashamed. "It's all right, as long as I get the money." Dustin waved his hand. After all, he didn't suffer any losses, and it wasn't a big deal. "Patrick, go and personally withdraw the money for Dustin. Make sure you don't make any mistakes," Spring instructed. "No problem." Patrick nodded and quickly left. In no time, a 380 million check was handed over to Dustin. "Dustin, we owe you a great debt today." Spring took out a silver waist token and presented it with both hands. "This is the Hill family's guest token. With this, you will be an esteemed guest of the Hill family. Not only can you freely enter all the places of the Hill family, but if you encounter any trouble, you can also seek help from the Hill family through this token. Dustin, you have to accept it. The token is a precious item. You can solve many problems with it," Patrick said eagerly. The guest token of the Hill family was something countless people dreamed of possessing. It meant having the support of the Hill family, almost allowing one to act recklessly within the boundaries of the entire South City. "Well, since it's a precious item, I'll take it." Dustin smiled and directly put it away. As one of the tremendous three, the Hill family had tremendous influence in the 7 provinces of Belerno. Dustin might need the Hill family's help if he encountered any problems. If there's nothing else, I will take my leave. Dustin didn't intend to stay any longer. Patrick, help me see Dustin off, Spring said with a smile. Dustin, this way, please. Patrick gestured with one hand, quickly leading Dustin away. As Spring watched the two figures depart, his smile gradually faded and was replaced by a cold expression. He's good at both medicine and martial arts. Not bad. He accidentally disrupted my plans. As he spoke, he flipped his palm, revealing a silver needle. It was the same needle that was extracted from Paul's body. Chapter 437. It was evening, and Dustin was sitting in the living room of Enchanting Villa, engrossed in a book, when Abigail suddenly rushed down the stairs. Uncle, I need your help with something urgent. Will you accompany me somewhere? Abigail leaned in, acting secretive. Where do you want to go? Dustin's curiosity was piqued. It's a secret. You'll find out once we get there. Abigail playfully dodged the question. If you don't tell me, I won't go. Dustin firmly declined. Well, will you come with me if I tell you? Abigail frowned. It depends on the situation. Dustin shrugged. All right, I'll tell you. My friend is celebrating her birthday tonight, and we've planned to have some fun together. Abigail revealed with a mischievous smile. What does your friend's birthday have to do with me? I'm not going. Dustin rolled his eyes. Hey. You're not keeping your word. You just promised me earlier. Abigail became a bit anxious. I said it depends on the situation. I didn't promise you anything. You're being unfair. Abigail stomped her foot in frustration. Listen, young lady. I'd rather quietly read my book than join you youngsters. Dustin waved his hand dismissively. I'm giving you an opportunity here. Do you know that my friend is a celebrity? She's gorgeous. Abigail tried to tempt him. I've seen plenty of beautiful girls. I'm not interested. Dustin shook his head. Hey. Are you even a man? You're not interested in women at all. Abigail bit her lip and snatched the book from Dustin's hand. Uncle, please, can't you do it for me? If you don't go, I won't be able to go either. Wait. Why does it matter if I go or not? You can go without me. Dustin was speechless. You don't believe me, huh? Follow me then. Without waiting for a response, Abigail grabbed Dustin's hand and pulled him towards the exit. However, when they reached the front door, Edmund suddenly appeared and blocked their way with a somewhat menacing look. You see that now? Abigail turned her gaze toward Dustin as if saying, see, this is why I can't leave. Whenever she wanted to go out at night, her father would appear like a ghost, and there was no escaping him. Dustin was momentarily speechless. Abigail, are you going out again at this late hour? Wasn't the lesson from last time enough? Edmund said sternly. Hey, hold on. Get it straight. It's not me who wants to go out. It's this guy here, and I'm just accompanying him, Abigail lied without batting an eye. Mr. Rhys, are you going somewhere? Edmund was slightly stunned, but soon, his expression softened. Sort of. Dustin forced a smile. Did you hear that? Uncle said he's feeling bored at home and wants me to take him out for a stroll. Are you going to stop him? Abigail spoke coldly. With that arrogant demeanor, she seemed to be leveraging Dustin's presence. If Mr. Rhys wants to go out, of course, I won't stop him. But please be careful and avoid crowded places. Edmund squeezed a smile. Understood. You can step aside now, and don't dampen Uncle's mood. With that, Abigail forcefully dragged Dustin away. She immediately showed her true colors once they were out of Edmund's sight. Uncle, I didn't expect you to be so useful. It seems I'll have to make good use of you as my tool in the future. Just listen to what you're saying. Dustin responded impatiently. Either study diligently or practice martial arts seriously. Don't wander around aimlessly all the time and waste your great talent. Uncle, I've been training all day. Don't you understand the importance of work-life balance? I should at least take a break, right? Abigail raised her head proudly. Considering that you helped me once, I'll treat you to something tonight. Dustin shook his head and couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Chapter 438. Since he was quite free, he thought he could use some time to relax. 20 minutes later, Dustin and Abigail exited the car in front of a music bar. Compared to the lively and noisy atmosphere of a karaoke bar, the music bar was quieter. Friends could sit together, drink, chat, and listen to music. It was relaxing and comfortable. Abigail. Over here. Right after they entered the music bar, a short-haired girl stood up and waved at Abigail. Dustin followed the direction of the sound and recognized several familiar faces. The short-haired girl was Nina Sharp. Another one was a popular guy in school, Mike Horton. Dustin thought the rest looked quite familiar but couldn't recall the names. The only person he couldn't recognize was a girl in a school uniform. She looked young and pretty. The girl had a delicate oval face with exquisite features. She looked pure and innocent, like a fairy. With just a glance, she could capture a person's attention. Sorry, we're late. Abigail approached them with a smile and took the opportunity to introduce Dustin. Uncle, you've already met everyone else. So I won't introduce them again. As for this person, she's the star of today's guest of honor, Ruby Zenos. Abigail added, let me tell you a secret. Ruby is not only a popular live streamer with millions of fans, but she's also a star at our school. Abigail, don't be ridiculous. I'm just a trainee, still far from being a star, Ruby pouted. Your singing is so beautiful. It's only a matter of time before you debut. I believe you'll become famous in no time. Abigail said with a smile. Whatever you say. Ruby rolled her eyes. Look, I didn't lie to you. I told you there would be beautiful girls here. So, are you impressed? Abigail turned back and teased Dustin. Dustin glanced at her sideways and couldn't be bothered to respond. I mean, Abigail, why did you bring an outsider with us when we're here to drink and sing? Mike seemed displeased. Yeah, Abigail, it's Ruby's birthday today, and it's not quite appropriate to bring a stranger along. Nina chimed in. It's all right. The more, the merrier, unfazed, Ruby smiled. That's right. This guy here is good at fighting. If anything happens, he can be our bodyguard. Abigail nodded repeatedly. What's the point of being good at fighting? If something really happens, it's all about connections and relationships, Mike sneered. Since Dustin stole the limelight before, he had been holding a grudge. He wanted to use Lord Horse to deal with Dustin and settle the score. Yet the man slapped him right then and there. His face was still a bit swollen. All right, let's not talk about that anymore. Since everyone is here, let Ruby sing us a song. Abigail quickly changed the subject. It's been so long since I've heard Ruby sing. Today, we're finally in for a treat. Ruby, come on stage quickly. I can't wait any longer. The crowd joined in the cheer. Well, I'll try my best then. Ruby nodded with a smile, then walked up to the stage and talked with the male singer. The male singer readily agreed and willingly gave up his spot. Oh, this young beauty is taking over the stage. Interesting. Hey, pretty. Sing The Love of a Boatman for me. As soon as Ruby stepped on stage, she immediately drew the attention of countless people, especially the men who had a few drinks. They became even more excited and kept cheering for Ruby. I'm sorry, I don't know how to sing this song. Ruby apologized. The Love of a Boatman is simple. You can learn it on the spot. As long as you sing this song, I'll reward you. A chubby guy walked forward with a smile, holding 10 roses that he had purchased. Each rose cost $100. He had spent more than enough to request a song. I really don't know how to sing this song. Ruby seemed awkward. I don't care. I've already requested the song, and if you don't sing, it means you're disrespecting me. The chubby man continued with an evil grin. Of course, If you're willing to have a few drinks with me, we can let this matter go. Upon hearing that, Mike immediately stood up, infuriated. Chapter 439. Hey. What the fuck are you talking about? Mike sprung up and yelled, feeling a burst of righteousness after. The sleazy man pester Ruby. My friend already told you she can't sing the song. Why the hell do you keep pressing her? Exactly. How can you force people to sing songs they don't know? Aren't you being too unreasonable? Neenal chimed in. The others who had remained silent wore similar indignant expressions. A show-off, huh? The chubby man sneered. She should follow the rules since she walked onto the stage. I've already paid, so she has to sing. So what if you paid? That measly sum is barely enough to buy coffee. Mike scoffed disdainfully. You want to talk about rules? Let me humor you. Hey, I'll give you 100 roses. Sing whatever you like for the first song. He said and paid $10,000 on the spot. Damn. He sure is easygoing with his money. He spent $10,000 without hesitation. He's probably some rich kid. Let's see what happens. The armor, which was far more interesting than someone's singing, attracted many onlookers, reaching the desired effect. I expected more than just $10,000, the chubby man jeered before pulling out a card and swiping it through the card terminal. He yelled. Bring this girl 10 bottles of red wine. Each bottle cost $10,000, so 10 bottles added up to $100,000. It took guts to spend that much money without even hesitating. Holy shit. Spending $100,000 for one song. That guy must be loaded. I can't understand the life of the rich. $100,000 is my total salary for an entire year. That girl's getting so much money for no reason. Is this one of the perks of being pretty? The crowd began whispering among themselves for different reasons, namely surprise, envy, and even jealousy, while the owner of the music bar beamed from ear to ear. Usually, they only get a few $1,000 in tips at most. Today, however, they were getting over $100,000, which meant that the owner would be raking in a large profit even if he split the amount evenly with the singer. Why aren't you saying anything, punk? Don't tell me you can't even pay $100,000. Chubster taunted, causing Mike's expression to darken. It's on. Let's see how much you're willing to spend. Mike immediately swiped his card again and shouted. I want 20 bottles. 20 bottles cost $200,000, double what Chubster had paid earlier. There was no way Mike was willing to give up now. Hey, Chubster. Do you know how powerful Mike is? You should give up before you embarrass yourself. Nina boasted loudly. HMPH. Mike's family has hundreds of millions in assets. What makes you think you can win against him? Precisely. 200,000 is nothing to him. I dare you to top that. Let's see who the final winner is. A chorus of taunts and jeers rose from the crowd of youngsters, who were at the age where they cared about nothing else besides their ego. Naturally, it meant returning insults after being on the receiving end. Foolish brats. The chubby man sniggered and swiped his card again. I want another 100 bottles. 100 bottles of red wine. The man's order caused an uproar among the crowd, who couldn't believe someone had not hesitated to spend $1 million on 100 bottles of red wine. He's a real tycoon. That much money could get him a house, but he gave it away so casually. Just how rich is he? Everyone was shocked. No one expected to encounter such a scene when they merely came to enjoy some drinks and music. I dare you to top that, brat. Chubster sniggered. Mike gritted his teeth, his expression darkening. $1 million was far from a small amount of money. His monthly allowance was only $100,000 at most, and his yearly allowance amounted to only around $1 million. The thought of spending a year's worth of allowance just for a singer troubled Mike. Worse still, he didn't have that much money on his card. Get him, Mike. Yeah. He's too arrogant. You should teach him a lesson. It won't be a big deal since the money is going to Ruby anyway. Mike's friends were ticked off by the chubby man's attitude and chose to fuel the fire. Mike's hands clenched into fists, his face becoming stormy with anger. Goddamn it. I just wanted to show off and impress Ruby. How was I supposed to know that the average looking chubster was rich? He thought. PFFT. Don't tell me you ran out of money, the chubby man jeered as realization dawned on him. You're trying to show off your wealth when you don't even have $1 million. How embarrassing. You. Mike's jaw clenched, but he couldn't refute what the other man was saying. His friends quickly noticed something was wrong after seeing him remain silent, and they soon realized they might lose. What made you think an immature brat like you could win against me? How foolish. The chubby man scoffed. Go home and play with your toys instead of making a fool of yourself here. Do you fancy yourself a knight in shining armor? Ha! What a joke. You're going too far. Mike yelled. So what? You could always prove me wrong by paying up. Chubster taunted, rendering Mike speechless. Shut the hell up if you don't have that money. The chubby man glowered at Mike before turning his attention to Ruby. I've spent $1 million on you, sweetie, so you better start singing. You're going to have a few drinks with me after that too. I'll sing for you, but I'm going to have to turn down the drinks. Ruby shook her head. While she was shocked by the chubby man's considerable wealth, she also knew what he had in mind, so there was no way she'd share some drinks with him. I spent over $1 million on you, so how hard can it be to share a few drinks with me? Chubster huffed. Displeased. I'm not good with drinks. Ruby seemed troubled. Shut up. You aren't leaving here if you don't drink with me. The chubby man shouted. Is $1 million a lot? Dustin suddenly questioned icily. I'll pay you $10 million to leave this instant instead of disgusting everyone. Chapter 440. 10 million. The crowd exchanged astonished glances when they heard him. Ordinary citizens couldn't even dream of earning that much money in their lifetime. How could Dustin make such a bold statement? Do you even have that kind of money? Abigail asked, shocked and anxious. Come on, don't show off when you don't even have that much money. You'll only end up embarrassing yourself. Mike said scornfully, giving Dustin a disdainful look. Although he dared not challenge the chubby man again, he still had the audacity to look down on Dustin. There was no way he believed a shabby-looking country bumpkin could win against someone as wealthy as Chubster. You're just spouting nonsense to show off, right? Well, let's see how this ends. Nina snorted, not believing that someone like Dustin would have $10 million. Who the fuck said that? Surprised, Chubster glanced around the room frostily. It was me. Dustin stood up slowly, his stare icy. Are you challenging me? Chubster sneered. Are you sure a beggar like you has $10 million? And what if I do? Dustin retorted. Then you can have the girl. If you don't, you'll have to get on your knees in front of everyone and bark like a dog. Chubster taunted. Upon hearing that, the crowd roared enthusiastically. After all, the show had gone from just competing with money to verbal insults. Why don't we just let this go? Fighting against someone like him is pointless. Abigail advised Dustin. Truth be told, she doubted Dustin as well. After all, he wouldn't be staying in her home if he had $10 million. Of course not. He challenged me, so how can I back down now? Dustin replied nonchalantly. But this is $10 million we're talking about, not $1 million. Abigail cried, feeling desperate. She dreaded the thought of seeing Dustin bark like a dog for the chubby man. Don't worry. It's just $10 million. No biggie, Dustin answered with a smile. Do you think you're a billionaire? Just $10 million. Yeah, right. Nina snorted. How could a country bumpkin like him have $10 million when even someone as rich as Mike was struggling? Let him be. We should just let him keep acting. Mike smiled coolly. Hey. What are you guys mumbling about over there? Chubster shouted. Are you going to do it or not? Get lost if you're not. You're ruining my mood. Who says I'm not going to? Dustin smirked. But we should make it fair. The person who loses has to kneel and bark like a dog. How about that? Are you trying to scare me? Ha! You're on. Chubster retorted boldly. I'll get down on my knees and start barking if you can produce $10 million. We have a deal. Dustin smiled and pulled out his card, tossing it to the owner. I'd like to treat that lady to $10 million. Are you serious? The owner gripped the card, bewildered. His entire establishment wasn't even worth that much money. Why would I lie? Swipe it. The pin is 666,666, Dustin replied calmly. All right, then. The owner gulped and ran to the counter to process the request. Chubster started feeling nervous when he saw how confident Dustin was. Don't tell me that shabby kid actually has that much money, he thought. The rest of the crowd also began exchanging uncertain glances.